Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Welcome back to the Cornwall Property Podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we're here to inform, educate and inspire you guys to get involved with property and with a particular emphasis on the Cornwall property market. So, James, where are we?
We are here at Pentilly House in Mevagissey, and this is one of, it's our first real big development that Dan and I have done. And this is a podcast where we're asking each other, a bit of a grilling, a bit like Dragon's Den, if you like, just finding out, the real behind the scenes about this project, the highs and lows and things like that. So really looking forward to it, and to give you guys, our viewers and listeners, more of an understanding of what really does go on with property development and, just show you that it isn't always plain sailing.
Yeah, no, and again, we're really conscious that a lot of people have said, look, it'd be nice to know a little bit more about you guys and what you guys are doing, because we're always trying to offer advice and guidance, but people are kind of like, well, what kind of position are these guys in, and what are they actually doing, and why can they, or who do they think they are? But hopefully this is just a little bit more of a, this is us laying it out there. And so I'll kick off, James. So obviously we're sat at Pentilly House. You've done numerous developments of a smaller scale in terms of just general, but houses, cottages, flats. How is this compared?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, with this particular building, I suppose we had to do a lot of uncovering, didn't we, to find out what was, beneath the walls and things like that. So I think one of the biggest underestimated things with this project I've certainly found stressful at times, was just the rip out. That I think we allowed probably about sort of £5,000 to £7,000 for the rip out, and we ended up spending more around the sort of 15 mark for that. And the money is one thing, but it's actually the sort of infrastructure is how do you get all this stuff away. So not only is that on muck away lorries that we've had here with high abs and grabbers, we thought we were going to get away with skips, didn't we? And it's taken so much longer than what we thought. I think initially we sort of allowed between sort of 5 weeks for the rip out, but I think we've drifted more into like sort of 2.5 months with just ripping out alone. So it's been a real challenge with that, and obviously we've been trying to put in groundworks at certain times. We had to delay that because we had more ripping out. It just seemed to be a bit of a sticking point, didn't it? Rip out, rip out, rip out. Yeah,
and again, at the time we did this, what was it? We got our hands on this place May 2021. So it's probably about 8-9 months ago now from when time we're recording this. And we've got tenants moving in a couple of weeks, which is obviously great. But at the time, I think the hardest thing and the worry for us was getting a building team in, and actually getting someone in that we trust and we like at quite a short notice. Because one thing we have found is we didn't have, because we'd never ripped it back, we weren't too sure on how far back we were going to have to go. As you said, James, the rip out, it was really hard to price. Specification wise and things like that. So that was, for me, was a worry initially in terms of we need to get this built out, and it's finding the right people and the right teams. But again, I look at it as we kiss frogs. You kiss a few frogs and then you find your prince. We have found some. I'm really proud of the team we built. We've got a great team: carpenters, electricians, plumbers, general builders, labourers. Everyone has played a big part in getting this over the line, and we couldn't have done it without them. So a big thank you. If you do watch and listen, guys, thank you. And I think the key for us is just getting that right team and being able to just roll on with it and putting that trust in them.
Definitely, trust is a big one for sure with your contractors, and it's a given that you sort of pay them on time. And most people think, well, of course you pay them on time, but in the industry it isn't unheard of that developers or people paying the bills, they let that wait for quite a long period of time. Everybody needs to get paid. That's what we do. That's why we work. It's it's to provide cost for living, isn't it? And we always look after our contractors in that way. We pay well and we pay on time always, because we know how important it is, and that keeps them sweet.
That's it. And then hopefully the idea is that they want to work with us more. We're nice guys, so that's the thing. And generally the idea is that pay on time, nice guys to work with, realistic, and I want to work with these guys. So but that's the key. And I think, as we refer to it a lot of time, they're our power team now. That's simply it. But agree. Rip out was a big one for sure.
Absolutely.
Go on then, James. Chuck one at me. What do you think?
Yeah, I suppose developments are or can be very challenging regardless to the external kind of environment. But a couple of things that I want to just throw at you that I know I could answer it, but COVID, material costs, because that, as far as contingency goes, I guess that was, it's been hard, hasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, and we're all in the same boat. Everyone's in the same boat. Anyone doing developments, anyone doing big, small, they're all going to get a hit. And I think it wasn't necessarily just price that was a pain, it was lead times and actually getting some of these materials. We've been quite fortunate. A lot of the timber, never had any issues with timber. Didn't really have too many issues. Insulation, there were issues with insulation at times, with particular types of insulation, getting hold of that. But cost. But I think the key, and how do we mitigate that as best you possibly can? Contingency.
Yeah.
You've got to plan your contingency. The unforeseen. You think when you're pricing up a job, when you're pricing up a project, you've got to price it as you think. And once you think you've got everything sussed, add an extra 10-15% just for the crack of it, because you are going to most likely need it. And we have well and truly used ours, because so many things that came up we didn't realise. Again, firstly, didn't realise we were going to go back to brick. We didn't anticipate going back to brick initially, and that's taken far more in terms of labour and waste removal from site, as you've mentioned and touched upon. The other is obviously the material costs. The actual price of materials has gone up. Pretty much, it's got 55% in places for timber and things like that. So again, these are all things that, how do you mitigate this risk? Just add it in the contingency. Even if you think you're covered, just add a little bit more. So James and I always have a laugh, because I'm, I suppose, overly contingent quite a lot of time, but yeah, I'm quite smug and sitting there right now thinking, I'm so glad we are.
No, absolutely. I think you have every right to be in the limelight there, Dan. And it's there's many benefits, as we've discussed in other podcasts, of teaming up with a business partner to share the risk, the stress. But if there's anything I've learned from you, it's just to have a much fatter contingency margin. And on this project, you've demonstrated perfectly why, because things can change in that external environment. That we have external constraints, we have no control over it. And it's a good job we did put a fat contingency in, and I've learned a lot from you with that, Dan. So
no, vice versa. And I'll throw one back at you then, James.
Go for it.
Hit me. For me, I could tell you what mine is, but what is, I suppose, just for the listeners and the viewers, what is the biggest risk for us as developers? Like, where is the biggest risk? What is all our money on? Like, what is out of our hands that we've got no power over, that we've just got to make sure we do the best we possibly can with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think any developer is always going to wonder what is, as we've talked about in other podcasts, the GDV, which is the gross development value. So basically, how much is the property worth at the end of it? And that is so, so important, especially for our company's kind of business model, which is we buy something, we buy really, really well at a really good price, we add as much value as we can, and then we refinance it at the end of it at 75% loan to value. Generally, that's kind of what we do, but we must know that end value, and we have to take on board, are we going to spend any extra that we especially with material costs. But like we've discussed, we put a really fat contingency in, but knowing your market condition. As it happens, over the last 2 years in Cornwall, just with the pandemic, people working from home, people holidaying in Cornwall, it has pushed the market up massively. In fact, one of the most richest areas in the country for capital appreciation and growth. And you can call it a bit of luck, but we have had the market behind us, which has been really, really good. And we're just very grateful for that. But, our numbers stacked up in the beginning. But, market condition is the biggest risk, because, it could take a turn for the worse. You just don't know. But luckily, on this development, things have gone really, really well. And we're very, very happy with the gross development value that we've been given by the mortgage valuer that came out over the moon. Definitely.
No, I could agree more. And that's always a squeaky bum time, isn't it? When that valuer comes around, because everything is in their hands, essentially. Because how we fund these properties is we use investor finance, so we purchase it with cash. So we've got very, very lucky to have very good investors work with us, and we offer them a return. So they invest with ourselves. We'll then give them an annual return on their money. So at the end of that 12 months, they'll get their money back plus interest, and then we'll discuss that. We'd like to go again. So it's a completely hands-free. hands-free investment for them, really. At the same time, we've been bringing our investors around in regular intervals, so they've been and visited at different stages. Been here, for example, probably 4 times in total, I think, top of my head. And again, at every stage, beginning, middle, after, during, and literally in the last couple of weeks, they've come and seen it at the end. And again, it's great to obviously build the trust and them to know, look, this is where your money is and this is why it's safe. And just trying to share as much information and updates as we possibly can with them, really, to put their minds at ease. But yeah, because we purchase with cash, we obviously put money into purchase the property. We use the cash as well to then refurbish and develop the property. And then we need this end valuation, this GDV, to be as high as it possibly can, because Mr. Valuer will come round, he'll tell you what the value of the property is worth, and then you will get a percentage of that. So we generally work to, kind of worst case, is a 75% loan to value. So whatever the valuer comes out and gives you, he says, this property is worth this, we will then get 75% of that value. We need to then make sure that that 75% adds up to the amount we need to pay everyone back with interest. So that is why the biggest risk is getting that end value right. For sure, couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. Another question I've got for you, Dan, just because you've been dealing with it a little bit more, is how have the locals been with this development? Because I know that in the beginning stages you were sort of going around to a lot of them, explaining what we were doing, and we know this property wasn't had the best reputation in the village, but to tell the listeners a bit more about your experience with the locals and the journey and where we started at and where we are now, because it's quite a big contrast. Very good point.
So yeah, obviously Mevagissey, it's a lovely fishing village. It's got a lot of history, and the locals are true Mevagissey locals generally. So first of all, this place was very, very run down. It was unsafe, and it had a bad rep. Had a very bad rep for numerous years, and every local you speak to or neighbour you speak to has got a different story to tell about the place, which was pretty horrible. And I think there was a lot of concern from the neighbours when we first initially went around and introduced ourselves and just said, look, this is our plan, these are our plans, etc. Because first of all, they were worried that we were just going to be increasing the capacity of more of the undesirable type of tenants that were here. Also, the second concern for them was, is it just going to be further holiday lets? Because to be fair, this would be prime holiday location, the type and the quality we've gone for, and the location, parking, etc. This and the access to the village, literally 2 minutes down up the lane. This could be prime holiday location, but what we have been very, very true to our own words is saying that this is not going to be holiday lets. They're going to be high-end, really nice, smart, luxury apartments for local people to live in. And obviously, I think they were quite sceptical initially when you say that, because, everyone tells you what they want to hear. But over time, we've encouraged them to come and see. Any opportunity where neighbours come by, given a bit of interest, but look, if it was safe to do so, we said, look, do you want to come have a look? And by doing that, it's just obviously built up that rapport locally. And I think everyone is very, very pleased with how it's now looking, because you're only going to get, hopefully, touch wood, one type of tenant here, and that's someone who's going to be caring and going to look after the place. I do think the locals sort of, everybody knows about the housing crisis in Cornwall. I mean, it is everywhere. It's on the radio, it's on the TV, it's everywhere you look. There's just people trying to find homes, and the fact that you're creating homes for long-term lets for locals, I think it's a really big, it's a good pitch for the locals that are around your development. You always want to keep them on site, because let's be honest, to get this to where it is today, which is looking like really nice, lovely apartments, there's a lot of building work that needs to come, which takes noise, cherry pickers, new roof coming, old roof coming off, new roof going on. That there is noise at times, but we've been very, very respectful, haven't we, with working hours, all that type of stuff. But all the way through, we haven't really had many major dramas. One storm, which was not too bad. We managed to work with it, but generally it's been pretty good with locals, I feel. Yeah, no, for sure. Everyone we've seen and has given really positive feedback. Every time they walk past, they always said, it's looking brilliant. Really, really looking forward to seeing it finished. And it's like, same. But no, really pleased, and no issues. Thanks for sharing that. No issue at all. Another one for you then, James. Again, obviously this property is owned by our business. Our company is Cornwall Living Property, and we are Cornwall Living Property, Dan and James. And this isn't all we've got. We've got a few developments going on currently, which is, again, I think for me has been the biggest challenge, is trying to juggle these developments. But with regards to what we've got coming up, what excites you most?
Well, we've obviously had where we as a company directors, we've been sort of involved doing the project management side of things, but it's been, well, we've learned so much because at the particular time of when we took on this development, there weren't that many construction companies around. We had the pandemic going on as well, so we had to just bring in a lot of our, sort of day workers, if you like, and people that I'd used on my development and had a bit of a, track record with and knew that they were good. But what I'm looking forward to for us as a business is that we've now interviewed several building contractors that we are hoping to use or will be using for the future projects. I'm just really looking forward for us to be a little bit more hands-off in terms of not project managing, but we can then, do what we do best, which is going out there, networking with the estate agents, networking with potential vendors and finding more deals, because, all of our company ethos is, bringing back these properties that are unencumbered, unsafe, derelict, whatever it might be, but you have to spend a lot of time doing the hunting, if you like, don't you? You've got to go off and find them. So I'm quite looking forward to putting our, Dan and James's focus on that. It's not to say that we won't be involved with the projects. We'll be doing site visits and all the rest of it, but I'm really looking forward to growing the company. And how do we do that? By finding more properties to develop, really.
And that's it. And then to summarise, it's working on the business, not in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that's really what we're aiming to get to now. We've learned a lot, and I think it's been invaluable in some instances, in that at times we've had 5 projects on at once.
Yeah, which is
it is unreal. And all of those have been us project managing each and every one, and the capacity on us. We've both got young families, we've got our own businesses on the side as well. It is
absolutely well, we often say in our podcast that we're on the financial stuff that I normally do, that we're not financial advisors. Well, I can tell you now, from being property developers, I can advise on this: don't take off too much. But for us, when the pandemic did hit, nobody knew where the market was going, and we did take a risk, but we also seeked out opportunity, and we did buy up quite a lot of property, and that's why they sort of all completed at a similar time. But the deals that we got back then, we probably wouldn't be able to get today because the market's had so much growth. But definitely don't take on too much, and certainly if you're taking on that much, don't do it on your own. Have a business partner like Dan that I've got, that I can moan to, and off gas and all the rest of it, because it is nice sharing that experience, risk and pain with somebody, isn't it, Dan?
What's it? My beautiful better half, my wife, she refers to you as my business wife, so that's always good. At least we're open, and it's open and honest about it. But no, couldn't speak more. I think it's so important to share the journey, share the highs, share the lows, and the risk with someone. And it's fine, not necessarily on paper. You think that we're quite similar in terms of characters, if we do like personality profiles, but with that, there's so much within those personality profiles that are opposites. So James is the best at networking. He is absolutely fantastic. He loves talking to people and getting out there networking, and he is essentially the face of Cornwall living for us. Whereas I thought I was that. I thought that was me. I thought I enjoyed that more. But having spent more time with James, I've realised actually no, he's far better than that. So it's a case of, well, look, why waste both our time? Let's use our time better. So James does the networking, gets into the agents and does all that side of things, whereas I'm trying to do the background, trying to do the research on what kind of specifications we need to use on these properties, trying to do the numbers on them as well. So it's just finding that flow, really, that natural flow, and I think that's something that we're very, very fortunate enough to have found, and it seems to be working. And we've got, as I say, currently still live. We've got obviously Mevagissey now, Pet City House that we're finishing on. I've got a shared house in Falmouth that we're just finishing at the moment. We've got 2 shared apartments in Truro that we've got coming on. We've got a block of 7 apartments in Newquay that we're currently doing. So there's plenty on at the minute, and it's not until you start putting those numbers on paper, it's like, we've got a lot on. But again, you got to make the most of it while these opportunities are there, and it's a lot harder now to get these opportunities. So that, again, that's just why it's so important to just take action, guys. Just stop thinking, what's the market going to do? Because regardless of what the market's going to do, as long as your strategy is for a long-term strategy, you will be fine. You'll be okay. Even if there's a little dip here and there, we've literally just exchanged a couple of weeks ago on another 2 commercial buildings. But again, people are like, what are you doing? The market could drop. If the market drops, we're not selling these. The aim is to hold these for the long term, and if that is the long-term game, then you cannot lose. Obviously, the biggest risk is making sure you can pay the people you borrowed money back, but the way we can de-risk that is exits. Get your exits in place. I think every time we take on a property or a deal, we must have, and we agree with ourselves, that we must have at least 3 exits, 3 possible what-if scenarios, because the investors, at the end of the day, they're the paramount area for us. We need to make sure it's not unnegotiable that we can't get their money back. So option 1, we put a mortgage on it. That way we can pay everyone back. Option 2 is maybe if it's a block of flats, we can title split and sell 1, 2, whatever we need to, apartments to pay back the loan we need. Option 3 is we just do the development, we sell the lot and pay everyone back. But I think the key for de-risking it is just getting those exits.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can de-risk property as much as you want, and that, as Dan said, is the best way to go about it. Have those exits covered, but always be aware that there are risks with property, but there's also lots of risks. I'm lucky enough to be going skiing very soon, and there's a risk on the plane, isn't there? That there are risks with life, but it's calculated risk, and it's all about knowing that end value. And what is the absolute worst case? Well, you can sell it. And how do you know that you can sell it? Well, check out what the market is doing in terms of its buoyancy, and people are still buying. And there's absolutely no reservations with that in Cornwall at the moment. And Cornwall is an amazing place to be, investing. And why not do it where you can bring back these unencumbered, sad properties back to the market, and as we always draw this home too, bringing back housing for the local people who live here, and that's what we've achieved here.
For sure. Well, hopefully that has given you a little bit of a better insight into who we are, what we're doing, and what we've got going on, and maybe it's encouraged you to get started, or if you've got some questions off the back of it, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear questions. And again, this is an Ask Dan and James episode where we've just been asking ourselves the questions, but please keep your questions coming in, because that just keeps us ticking on.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can do that by going online to propertypodcast.com, go onto the front page there, scroll down to the bottom, and you can send a message on that way. Or as many as you do, go onto our Facebook page. You can send us a message there, or you can also send us an email on hello@cornwallpropertypodcast.com, and Dan and I will certainly get back to you. And as always, thank you for all your questions, because without you guys, there's no point doing this, because you are our listeners and viewers, and we're very lucky and grateful to have you.
Yeah, definitely. So please do please do subscribe and share wherever you possibly can. Every little like helps. So guys, that's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me, and thank you for supporting us.